What the fuck? You start Bayonetta the way you start most religious experiences, confused, intrigued, and slightly aroused against your better judgment. The opening credits don't even roll in a normal way. They float past you midair as you're beating the divine light out of angelic sentinels atop a falling clock tower. This isn't just a tutorial, this is a manifesto, a thesis written in slow motion bullets and saxophone solos. It's as if the game itself clears its throat, puts on sunglasses, and says, "Forget realism, let's talk spectacle." To understand Bayonetta is to understand excess, but not the ugly, clumsy kind that collapses under its own weight. No, Bayonetta's excess is operatic. It's not a buffet where everything tastes the same. It's a 5-course meal served on the wings of a choir boy mid-exorcism. Platinum Games didn't create a heroine so much as they conjured a celestial anomaly. Bayonetta, half woman, half weaponized metaphor, a walking rebuttal to Newtonian physics. She doesn't walk so much as glide, hips first, every step a declaration of dominance over gravity. If God created her, he did it while drunk on power and high on gunpowder. Her 4 guns, 2 in her hands, 2 on her heels, aren't tools of violence so much as extensions of rhythm. Combat isn't about killing, it's about dancing through annihilation. Every kick, every dodge, every time she bends space-time to punish an angel in slow motion. Feels like choreography designed by an infernal ballet company that was too fabulous for hell to contain. But here's the thing, beneath all the style, all the wink and smirk confidence, Bayonetta hides a surprisingly elegant design philosophy. Platinum Games understood something most action games didn't, that fluidity is a form of freedom. You're not playing Bayonetta to survive, you're playing Bayonetta to look immaculate while doing it. It's a thesis about control, about letting the player feel divine, even as divine forces crumble around them. Bayonetta's witch time, the glorious moment when you dodge at the last second and slow the world into syrup, isn't just a mechanic, it's ego made tangible. It's a reward, not for panic but for precision. When you activate it, you feel as though you've slipped out of reality's grasp. It's elegance through power and power through timing. Platinum turned reaction into poetry. And what poetry it is. The angels you face aren't cherubs. They're gilded horrors, gold-plated nightmares straight from Renaissance fever dreams. The design alone feels like the developers were handed a copy of Divine Comedy and told, feathers, halo, lion heads, trumpets sprouting from torsos. Every creature looks like heaven outsourced its design team to a fashion house with a grudge. And when Bayonetta dismantles them, it's not with disgust or vengeance, but style. She strikes poses, reloads with a spin, and scolds the very concept of divine authority. The humor here is crucial. Bayonetta doesn't just know it's ridiculous, it worships its own ridiculousness. Every line delivery, every one-liner, lands like a gospel in a world where irony has died of exhaustion. There's no cynicism in this absurdity, there's only confidence. The game believes it is nonsense so thoroughly that it becomes beautiful. And then there's the narrative, which exists in that rare space between incoherence and myth. Bayonetta doesn't explain, it declares. It unfolds its lore as if reading a bedtime story to someone already dreaming. You're told about the Umbra Witches and Illumined Sages, ancient clans bound by cosmic destiny, light and dark forever entwined in melodrama, so grand it could make a telenovel blush. You're told about the eyes of the world, mystical artifacts, yada yada, but it's not the what that matters, it's the way it's told. The story's logic isn't narrative, it's aesthetic. It moves like jazz riffing on themes, circling revelations until you realize the truth isn't meant to be understood, it's meant to be felt. There's a moment, maybe 5 or 6 hours in, when you stop trying to follow the plot, you surrender, you give yourself to the rhythm of it, and suddenly everything makes sense. Not in your mind, but in your gut. It's like watching an opera in a language you don't speak, but realizing the emotion is universal. Love, memory, identity, rebirth. Bayonetta tackles these with subtlety of a gunshot and the grace of the waltz. Bayonetta's relationship with Cerise, the mysterious little girl who follows her like a mirror from the past, is the emotional heart beneath all the chaos. It's easy to forget between the taunts and their hair-dragging finishers that Bayonetta is about self-recognition, a witch remembering her own name. Every sassy smirk hides a ghost of loss. Every absurd boss fight becomes a kind of spiritual exorcism, not of angels, but of amnesia. Beneath the spectacle lies the simplest human story, a woman reclaiming her identity. That's the secret weapon of Bayonetta. It lures you in with absurdity, then rewards you with sincerity. The overtop choreography and the baroque ridiculousness aren't distractions, they're camouflage. They protect the beating heart of a game that generally believes in empowerment, in performance as liberation. Bayonetta isn't objectified, she's weaponized. Femininity incarnate. She owns her image so completely that even the male gaze feels like an uninvited guest in her domain. When she taunts, she's not flirting with the player, she's mocking them, mocking their expectations, their assumptions. Every exaggerated pose, every sultry quip is a jab at the history of how games have treated women. She flips that narrative into a gun ballot. She reclaims it with a smirk and a hair whip that literally summons a demon from the void to devour an angel. Bayonetta doesn't ask for power, she choreographs it. And that's why the combat feels transcendent. It's not just about combos, it's about confidence. The perfect dodge is a wink to the universe. The final blow is a curtain call. You're not fighting for survival, you're performing for applause. Even the scoring system reinforces it, rewarding you not for efficiency, but for style. Every medal feels like a standing ovation from some imaginary audience in the underworld. Then there's the music, that insane, jazzy, pop-infused symphony of camp and holiness. Fly Me to the Moon shouldn't work as a battle theme, and yet it does. Because Bayonetta lives in contradiction. Frank Sinatra meets gothic warfare. It's like the game asked, what if Las Vegas Cabaret declared war on heaven, and then spent 10 hours proving the answer is perfection. By the time the credits of Bayonetta roll, you're not clapping because the story made sense, you're clapping because it felt right. You've just witnessed an exorcism conducted via catwalk. A ritual of bullets and laughter. You've seen heaven torn down not by cynicism or rage, but by style, and that's rare. Style, when done wrong, is hollow. It's perfume sprayed on a corpse. But in Bayonetta, style is substance. What makes this all so miraculous is that Bayonetta shouldn't work on paper. It's nonsense. A witch awakens from centuries of slumber with no memory, fights angels with guns attached to her stilettos, summons demons with her hair, and discovers that her greatest enemy might also be her father, who's also God. But also maybe not, and yet somehow this incoherent mess becomes a hymn of coherence through tone alone. Platinum Games doesn't explain their world, they declare it with conviction. The logic of Bayonetta isn't empirical, it's emotional. Like a dream, it demands belief, and once you give it, you're rewarded with awe. Bayonetta doesn't just inspire it, it weaponizes it. Each chapter escalates the impossible until you forget what scale even means. One moment you're fighting on the side of a skyscraper, next you're surfing a missile through a collapsing cityscape. And by the end, you're fist fighting a god in orbit, while your own hair morphs into a dragon. The absurdity compounds until the only rational response is laughter, but it's a laughter of reverence, the kind reserved for watching fireworks you can't quite comprehend. It's divine spectacle with mascara. And there's something deeply cinematic about that. Hideki, the director, doesn't just borrow from cinema, he outperforms it. The camera spins, swoops, and lingers, always aware of its star. It doesn't just show Bayonetta fighting, it worships her as she fights. Every frame is a love letter to movement, to velocity, to grace under fire. If Devil May Cry is a rock opera, Bayonetta is a jazz ballet in a thunderstorm. Improvised, confident, and beautifully absurd. And then there's that delicious meta layer. Bayonetta isn't just playing with cinematic language, it's mocking it. Those long, slow pans and the suggestive angles, the overblown camera work, all deliberately parody. But there's a craft beneath the swagger that too many overlook. The combat design is a thesis in kinetic clarity. Every animation is deliberate, every input responsive. You feel the momentum of each move, the weight of each gunshot, the rhythm of each combo. There's no clutter, no hesitation. Bayonetta moves like a thought made flesh, an extension of your will, filtered through couture. Platinum's genius lies in the feedback loop. The player and the character are united by grace. When you dodge perfectly, you become her. That's not metaphor, it's muscle memory. And what a feeling that is. Not just empowerment, but elegance. Most action games reward aggression. Bayonetta rewards poise. The best players don't mash, they dance. They flow between punches and pirouettes with the calm precision of someone who's been here before. In another life, another century. It's reincarnation through rhythm. When it clicks, it's transcendent in motion. Religion by combo counter. The game's set pieces become chapters in this divine symphony. The highway chase, the rocket ride, the fight on a crumbling clock tower suspended over an abyss. Each is a sermon on escalation. Every encounter whispers, "You thought that was ridiculous? We've only just begun." But the miracle is that you never tire of it. The absurdity renews itself because it's playful. This is not a game that takes itself seriously. It takes its joy seriously. It's a celebration of imagination unchained, of art as excess, of creativity so unashamed that it borders on rebellion. And rebellion is key. Beneath the latex and lipstick, Bayonetta is fundamentally an act of defiance against genre, against gender stereotypes, against the tyranny of good taste. It's a statement that says, why be grounded when you can levitate? In a gaming landscape obsessed with realism, Bayonetta dares to be operatic. It's camp as transcendence, sincerity through exaggeration. It's the art of ridiculous turned sacred. Even in its humor, functions as philosophy. Rodin, the smooth-talking demon bartender who forges your weapons, is less as a side character than a Greek chorus of sarcasm. His bar, the gates of hell, is the confessional booth for the damned. He represents the game's ethos, indulgence without apology. And Enzo, the bumbling informant, is humanity at its most foolish, the mortal counterpart to Bayonetta's divine indifference. They ground her without diluting her, keeping the universe from collapsing under its own celestial weight. And speaking of weight, the sound design, every kick lands like punctuation, every bullet sings, every metallic clash carries that faint echo of jazz percussion, like the universe itself keeping tempo. Then the vocals come in, the angelic choirs twisted into seductive rhythm, and suddenly you're in church, except the preacher is wearing heels and the sermon is about destruction as self-expression. Bayonetta doesn't separate the sacred from the profane, it fuses them into a single divine absurdity. That duality defines her, witch and saint, sinner and savior, mother and monster. Her hair, which serves as both her clothing and her weapon, is an inspired symbol of that dual nature. It's both veil and revelation, armor and vulnerability. When she attacks, she sheds part of herself. Her power is not something she wields from a distance. It's something she becomes. Every climax summon, the massive demonic manifestations that devour bosses, is an act of metamorphosis. It's intimacy turned apocalypse. Bayonetta's body isn't objectified, it's mythologized. And let's not overlook the absurd audacity of her finisher moves, summoning Madama Butterfly or Gamora through interpretive dance. It's as though Michelangelo sculpted the Last Judgment after discovering pole dancing. You can laugh, and you should, but the laughter carries all. Bayonetta's power comes from the same sources of humor. She refuses shame. She knows the world will stare, so she makes the act of being watched an art form. Even the boss fights carry that theatrical energy. Gian, her crimson-clad rival, isn't just a mirror image. She's Bayonetta's literal reflection. Their duels are less battles than duets. Each class is a dialogue between memory and identity, between the self she was and the self she's become. It's mythic, yes, but also intimate. Two facets of the one woman dancing through destiny. The relationship is rivalrous, sisterly, tragic, and glamorous all at once. And in the final encounter, when the truth of her past surfaces, the chaos coalesces with clarity. Bayonetta's story was never about saving the world. It was about saving herself. By the end, you realize Bayonetta isn't an action game so much as a performance about performance. A commentary on artifice, on the beauty of exaggeration. It's a satire of religious dogma, a critique of masculine heroism, a celebration of the feminine divine, and a dance-off between creation and destruction. It's theology rewritten in lipstick and bullet casings. There's a strange sort of serenity in that refusal. Bayonetta doesn't care if you get it. It doesn't care if you think it's too much, too weird, too camp. It knows what it is, and that certainty is magnetic. It's a work of maximalism that transcends taste. It's what happens when a game decides to be unapologetical itself. In a medium so often terrified of being silly, Bayonetta finds holiness in humor. So yes, the story is wild, the camera is lecherous, the dialogue is shameless, and the logic is long dead. But the result is a masterpiece of tonal coherence, like a great drag performance on a surrealist film. It invites laughter and awe in the same breath. It tells you reality is boring, art is divine, and then it winks, fires a bullet, and blows the smoke into a halo. The legacy of Bayonetta isn't just in its sequels or its spiritual descendants, or the endless debates about empowerment versus objectification. Its legacy lies in the feeling it leaves behind, that exhilarating, impossible feeling of control married to chaos. It's the memory of dodging a celestial sword at the last second, activating witch time, and thinking, yes, this is what power looks like. Not brute strength, not dominance, but elegance under pressure. Because Bayonetta at its core is a game about being seen and redefining what that means. It's about performing for yourself, not for others. It's about reclaiming the gaze, mastering the frame, and turning every battle into choreography. It's about the power of presentation as transformation. Bayonetta doesn't ask for validation, she validates herself by being unflinchingly extra. So as the credits fade and the last jazz chord trembles in the air, you realize you haven't just played a game, you've attended a ritual. You've witnessed divine camp, you've survived a theological fashion show, and when Bayonetta blows her last kiss to the heavens, it's not a farewell, it's a declaration. Style is salvation, performance is prayer, and every witch deserves her stage.